Well, actually, it's how we say it. All from the recipe through the label, all the texts, also all the press releases to the media. Everything was done by an artificial intelligence. Actually, and it was an idea that my brother had just to try and see what will happen, and it turned out that this technology is really advanced. Because okay, now speaking of beer, we all know that the recipe for a lager, it's not that hard. It's not like you're doing something with lots of malts and lots of hops and so on. The recipe as a recipe is like not that hard. The thing is to brew it the right way. So we wanted to do some lager for quite some long time. So now was the time, and yeah, we just decided to see what will happen. So we stick to to this recipe, and it turned out that it's actually not that bad. It's actually not that bad. The chat GPT, actually the beer is really drinkable, really good. We had like really good feedback from the customers. Actually, the recipe is pretty much the same that our head brewer said he would go for. So the thing is with this AI, that I think it's really fast advancing and developing and upgrading itself. So yeah, that's really nice. And about the label, for me that was the showstopper. The label was usually, we also have one of the biggest advertising agencies in Bulgaria, but still, when we have to do a label for our beers, it takes about 3 4 weeks, and the AI did it in 2 days. So for me, in terms of production, that's awesome, you know. And the label itself, it's really nice. It's really complex. It's not something that is just plain simple. No, it is really nice.
Okay, I suppose there's a couple of things to unpack there, guys. I don't know if you want to jump in, but I mean, so you did a lager recipe where you say from what did it just pick kind of a generic? Did it give you a generic lager recipe?
Well,
Or
to be honest, yeah, no, you you try to, let's say, help it a bit. You just tell him what should the final volume be, what's the alcohol content that you want, and what else. I just said it, I want it to be with American hops, just to be something a bit different. So but yeah, the recipe itself, it's kind of a basic lager, 100% pilsner, two-step mash.
right,
Nothing fancy, but actually it works.
but yeah, I guess I'm wondering what the other guys are thinking about this. Like, I mean, because you're coming up with your own recipes normally. I mean, that's the creative part. Does
Yeah,
this
yeah.
like I can see, and I know if you're a designer, I can see, say, designing labels. Say, like, I know this is one of Adam's, like, or things that. So designing labels takes time, and if you're a designer, it's lucrative work. But from this, it sounds like you could replace all your designers, but you might still want to keep your own brewer as designing your own recipes. I'm just trying to see where.
Yeah, if I think the recipe is only maybe less than half of the work. The whole work is in the small things that the brewer does. The whole process control and so on. That's where the main quality of the beer comes. Also, if you do something complex, you need to. Mm, merge different tastes and fruits with malt and so on. Maybe, yeah, there is quite a lot of work on the recipe, but on the like like Misho said, their basic lager maybe not so much in the recipe, but the whole concept to make a beer.
Absolutely.
Make a beer designed by AI. It's sounds interesting.
To be honest with you, I don't think that it's still that that advanced to, let's say, get rid of the human part in the process. Because for me, yeah, the recipe, but I always said that the recipe is maybe even less than 50%. Because, if you do a good fermentation, you do your job in the brewing process, and you have a lousy recipe, you will get a better beer than the opposite way around. If you take some award-winning recipe, but you don't know the hell what are you doing, it won't turn out. Actually, I can say this from my own experience, because starting to brew years ago when I was a home brewer, what I did is I just downloaded recipes from, let's say, some US brewers or others that won like multiple gold medals, and I was like, okay, now I'm going to brew it, and it's going to be a hell of a beer, and they turn out not that great. Let's not curse online, but it was not that great. So for me, that's it. The recipe, actually, you can find a decent recipe for a beer. There is so much sources. Also, one of the leading names in the craft beer scene, they all of them, they just handed out all the recipes, like Mikkeller, like Brewdog, and so on. So the recipe is not the thing for me. The mastery is in the process itself, how to control the fermentation, how to, let's say, prepare the wort for the yeast, keep it healthy, to know what you need to have in the beer in order to achieve a good finished product. And also in terms of the label, yeah, maybe you can swap your designer with an AI. The thing is, I don't think that this personal touch, the artistry that is in every label that is made by a human, I don't think you can achieve this with an AI. Yeah, you can, let's say, for simpler beers or for something that you don't want like some crazy label, or you want to just keep it simple. Yeah, maybe you can do it with an AI, but still, I think it needs some more time to be able to, let's say, replace the human part of the process. And also, I don't think that the whole thing with the AI is, namely this, to replace the humans. More so to be like a really advanced tool that just saves you time in terms of, writing texts, because in text writing, it's really, really good. Actually, I was really astonished how good it is. So for me, that is just another tool that is to help us be better and be faster, let's say.
It's interesting to hear, because I mean, I know, like I said, probably this stage, but making the point about it being the whole AI, the whole thing, that's what you're marketing as, just trying to get thing. But there is something behind it.
Yeah. I don't know. It is interesting just because for us it was actually because it was my brother's idea. He was like, when the whole this ChatGPT started, like I don't know what was last October or something like this, when they launched it in beta, and he was trying to get to know it, to write some text and so on. So one day he just said, okay, why don't you do a beer with an AI? I was like, okay, why not? Let's try, let's see. For me, it was really interesting how it's gonna turn out, and it turned out it's really, really good, really good. And for people, because we always try to, our concept is not just to brew beer. I want to have some story behind every beer, to have something that, because we all know that there are stories behind the beers. Every beer that we brew, there is something you sit down with your colleagues, you thought about the recipe, the name has some meaning for you as brewers. So that's what we are trying to do actually. And for us, the storytelling part of the things is really important. It's really important. So this thing with the AI, it was like something interesting, something that nobody did before us in Bulgaria. So it was like, okay, let's see what's going to happen, how people will react to this.
And was it well received?
Oh yeah, it was interesting. Now, don't get me wrong. We didn't kill the market with sales just because it was AI generated, but it was interesting. It was something new.
Would you see AI doing some work in your brewery? What would
in terms of the texts, yeah, the text itself for I don't know now for the labels, but for online posts for this thing, maybe we can use it. It's actually really helpful to help you with the let's say to go over the text you wrote, all the punctuation and stuff like this, because it's really helpful for this thing. Now for the recipes, of course I won't use it. I mean, I tried it with a New England IPA recipe and it failed miserably.
Okay.
It was it crashed like hell. But for this thing, I'm not going to use it for the recipes. After all, our head brewer has enough experience, so I'm not thinking to replace him with ChatGPT. For the labels, maybe yes, but what we discussed with our designers is that it's a useful tool just to make some fragments from the label and just to help them out in terms of let's say of time consumed, because this thing is working really fast. And what our designer told me is that if he wants to do it by himself, it will take some time for him, maybe week or some more when the AI does it in pretty much in hours. So for him, for labels, that's gonna be really helpful to help him out with some fragments. But still, it's craft beer. I want to keep the living human in the process. I don't want to go away and so on.
How about you guys? Any plans? Do you think you're gonna? Are you happy with what
I
you're
think
doing?
we will try it also, especially like said in label creating side. Yeah.
But beer recipes, the beer. That's
No,
probably
not so much. maybe after some time when that AI will have more craft beers, so it can design better recipes.
Yeah. I wonder will there be a new big trend like a West Coast IPA or something that will come out of it. Someone will come up with a new style of beer.
It's very interesting because the concept itself is not that strange. We had as guest a bunch of people last year from a Polish brewery, and they own the brewery and they are using the brewery, but they don't have their own brand. Everyone there is a contract brewer. Everyone brings their own recipes, but they are the ones who are brewing it, fermenting, and canning. So they only use the equipment, and that's not really that far from the concept of like generating a recipe, because someone from the outside brings you the concept in maybe, and of course in modern automated breweries also, like there's an invisible hand that takes over part of the process. So it's not that far away, I think, from everyday beer making, but it's really for me, it was strange to think about, as I always thought about it as a social thing to make and consume beer. So that was interesting. One of the guys brought the idea in, like in early January. So how about we design labels from now on? But I think and we might in the future, but currently the technology is still not that advanced to imitate styles. If we would have like a I don't know, from every brew a changing style of label, I think we could like change for tomorrow for an AI. But as most breweries, including us, have their own well-known styles of design of graphics on their labels, we couldn't find anything that could imitate that, even like a bit. So I think we're still going to stick to graphic designers, and of course I'm not really I don't know into it, because I read an article that said that the first 20 jobs that AI would take over would all be like teachers' jobs. So we have time.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
Time to adapt. Yeah.
And you know that brewing automation is expensive, so also the brewers should not be afraid of this. So
cheap labor force.
yeah, only if you work for a really, really big brewery, then
Yeah.
you're screwed.
Yeah, well, I mean, then you're back to the craft being an artisan
the craft
product.
itself. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's the craft itself that people are, and like you said, it's the stories behind the beer, the stories behind the brewers, and how they made it, and how they set up, like what we're talking here, where the breweries came from and how you got around to setting them up. That's what drives an awful lot of people.
To be honest with you, what I from my experience, every time we go to some event or somewhere, when someone approaches and wants to ask a question, it's like 99% of the time it's the story of the brewery itself, our stories, how we started brewing, how we make build the brewery and so on. And it's not like, okay, what's the recipe of the beer, how did you do it? It's more like, why did you decided to do a beer like this? And for me, that's the beauty of the craft beers.
Yeah,
that you have a story for every brand, for every beer, and that's it. You're not brewing something that it's just one beer for the past 200 years or so. You're just doing something that it's pretty much every time new, pretty much every time exciting, and so on.